Hey, what's up, all you freaks and disasters? It's Nate Houseman, your guide to the 21st century, and I just spent the last 3.5 hours sorting through news, tweets, articles, lots of information about Hurricane Helene and the possible communication blackout that Q predicted. It took me 3 hours just to sort all this information because my browser was lagging so bad. I wonder if that's a portent of things to come. Hey, let's talk about some stuff here. It really seems like I'm getting deja vu. We're seeing lots of chatter that are these hurricanes man-made? If not man-made, are they directed by human beings, like by HARP or the cabal or the deep state, what have you? And is FEMA and the federal government really blocking aid and support to the people in North Carolina? We've got so much conflicting, we got so much information we can't trust, and that's probably the point. There's precious little video coming out of these places, and doesn't that remind you of a certain day in January when we were told that there was a revolt against the government, when there was really a fortification against the duly elected president, and we can't get any information from the Capitol from that day? Precious little. Think about that. So let's start with this tweet by Wall Street Silver. The system has convinced people that if someone questions the government and doesn't blindly trust them, they're a crazy conspiracy. But if you identify as a cat or have 75 pronouns, that's normal. Very good point. Also, from redstate.com, FEMA's ridiculous new hurricane misinformation website needs some serious fact-checking. Fie on this man, Alejandro Mayorkas. He's the Secretary of Homeland Security, which is the umbrella over FEMA and over the border, and he is up to his scalp in corruption, human trafficking, crimes against humanity, crimes against the United States of America, crimes against the Republic. This article says, how do you know when you're being lied to by the political left? Well, yes, when their lips are moving, but also when they scream disinformation. Such is the case with Biden-Harris's FEMA, which has announced a new website to address what they're calling hurricane disinformation. The translation of that nonsense little phrase being they were caught with their pants down after Hurricane Helene, whether accidentally or deliberately, and it's all the fault of disinformation. The whole thing is straight out of the Democrat Party operating manual. First, you start with an emergency, riots, fires, hurricanes, any old emergency will do. In this case, we have a hurricane that has devastated a significant portion of western North Carolina, home to a uniquely American population of mountain kin and hard-seat leftists. Not the coastal elite and deep-pocketed Democrat donors being affected, so a tepid response is adequate. Then you roll out said tepid response, a pallet of water here, a few army guys there, maybe throw in a wholly inadequate check in the amount of $750 for good measure, and now you can say you've mobilized your troops. Next, you get your friends in the media to downplay or downright deny the catastrophe because it's not potentially politically expedient during a presidential election year. I've got thoughts about that. This is the most important step in building your disinformation narrative, and you needn't worry that the media won't comply. They will. Oh, yeah. They're all different. They're all just individual tentacles of the banking cabal, government, corporations, even communists. Remember, Lenin's revolution in Russia was financed by Germany and Wall Street. Finally, having been called out on being a colossal failure, you deflect with the tried and true disinformation trope. Adding a website where you can search by so-called rumor is a cherry on top of the communist sundae. Yeah, and the only difference between communism and fascism is their propaganda. The whole thing is playing out in real time right before our eyes, with FEMA Director Deanne Criswell holding a press conference Tuesday to bemoan that the level of perceived mis and disinformation is something she's never seen before. She added, I anticipated some of this, but not to the extent that we're seeing this. Well, yeah, because we have a mainstream free speech platform called called X now. So you're gonna get bombarded by the facts of conservative bias. So I can go on, but this really sets the stage. So we're going to go through a lot of controversial information. If you want to support the people in these areas, I really recommend the website givesendgo.com. I have my own GiveSendGo page to help support this program. I would urge you to prioritize people in North Carolina and Florida. But if you want to support me and my work, I mean, I would be delighted. I would be honored. I would be honored to be your guide to the 21st century. Another way you can directly support this program, I've got several. You can click on the affiliate link to a Blackout Coffee, a great Patriot company that makes a great product that I treat myself to every couple months. Great coffee. But you can join my locals page. I have exclusive content on here. My most recent exclusive content is Burning Away the Demonic Pop Culture Illusion. If you subscribe to my locals page for $5 a month, you'll have access to this discussion where I go over really the veil of abuse and deception that the entertainment industry has cast on the world, and why we really need to not just save pop culture from the woke left, but burn the whole motherfucker down. And I have a new project. It's a simple little thing. It's an affiliate store. TheSafeCitizen.com. I've searched for all the best, most cost-effective, most do-it-all self-defense gear on Amazon, and I've compiled it on this website. You got pepper spray, you've got holsters, you got self-defense, martial arts books, you got pepper spray more, you got folding and fixed blade knives, you've got a sling bag for, concealed carry. I can't promote affiliate links for actual firearms, but I can promote firearm accessories. I pick these products because they give you the most bang for your buck, they give you the most value for your money, and they're affordable for the most run-of-the-mill, average Joe. We're going to need that protection in the coming months, because if by some miracle Donald Trump overcomes the fortification this time in less than a month, the deep state, the enemy, the Democrats, whatever you want to call them, the Illuminati, they're not going to go without a fight. I'm not saying we look for a fight. I'm saying we end fights. We be prepared. And because the bad guys are in this country right now. So click on the link to thesafecitizen.com. Amazon has, financing for a lot of these products, so take advantage, and I'll get a little, commission. I'll get a little affiliate commission. Now, America First Twitter says this. Here are some objective facts. FEMA's Emergency Food and Shelter Program has been reshaped to provide funding to families and individuals encountered by the Department of Homeland Security, aka illegal aliens. $685 million has been allocated to fund illegal aliens, not people in disaster, not American citizens in disaster zones. The Shelter and Services Program is designed to exclusively provide shelter and services to illegal aliens. Over $1 billion in taxpayer dollars have been allocated between fiscal year 2023 and 2024. The number one goal of FEMA's strategic plan is to instill equity as the foundation of emergency management. And equity is code word for kill Whitey. FEMA has also identified people of color, women, and the LGBTQ plus community as disproportionately impacted by disaster. According to the Biden-Harris administration, natural disasters don't have the same impact on white straight men. And from what I see on Twitter, a lot of men of color take offense to that as well, because they don't like being They don't like being handed kid gloves. Now, North Carolina National Guard admits they rotor washed a Hurricane Helene relief site. Yeah, so FEMA is dragging their feet at best and blocking regular civilian efforts at worst. Did you see that clip on Twitter? You might have seen it on YouTube. I know Salty Cracker covered it. There was a big parking lot full of supplies brought in by donors from all over, and this unmarked black helicopter just flew over really close, and with their rotor blades, blew a lot of stuff away and ruined a lot of supplies. That's either a government helicopter or a government contractor helicopter. How do we know? Because it was unmarked. Helicopters are required by law to be marked. Salty Cracker pointed this out. So this was done at the behest of our so-called government. As Red State reported on Tuesday, Brian Trasher, Vice President and PIO of the United Cajun Navy, confirmed the Sunday rotor washing event at one of their Hurricane Helene relief stations in North Carolina by what is surmised was a UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter. On the evening of Sunday, October 6th, a helicopter rotor washed a POD center where the United Cajun Navy was distributing supplies and giving relief to the people impacted by Hurricane Helene. This area was a no-fly territory, so the appearance of the helicopter flying 500 feet from the ground was extremely frightening, as the UCN documented on its X page, and there is video of this on X. Trasher had more to say about who might have been behind the incident and stated that the organization was investigating. A day late and a dollar short, the North Carolina National Guard decided to fess up that it was their Black Hawk helicopter that did the deed. On Tuesday evening, they issued this post on X. The North Carolina National Guard is aware of an incident involving an NCNH UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter during a delivery of generators at the request of a local civilian organization to power their distribution outposts in western North Carolina. Continue reading below, and we won't bother with that. The North Carolina National Guard is aware of an incident involving... Okay, we just read that. The NCNG continued their explanation of what happened in a thread. While attempting to land, rotor wash caused items to blow away from the local distribution set up by a group of civilians in the area. The crew immediately identified the situation, aborted the landing for safety reasons, and departed the area. This incident is currently under investigation, and the crew has been grounded until the investigation is complete. The NCNG is working with the identified local civilian organization to assess the level of damage caused by the rotor wash. Slow golf clap. So does assessing the level of damage involve reimbursing United Cajun Navy for supplies that were destroyed? Asking for all those Carolinians whose relief was hampered because a pilot was asleep at the controls. So yeah. There is much deserved ire against the federal government and its response, or lack thereof, to the Hurricane Helene tragedy in western North Carolina. The fact their own state National Guard made this error only adds fuel to the fire of the people's anger. It's worth noting, North Carolina's alleged governor is a Democrat. The fact that their own state National Guard made this error only adds fuel to the fire of the people's anger. The North Carolina National Guard probably knew it would only be a matter of time before the discovery that it was their helicopter involved in the incident, so they got ahead of it in order to distract focus off them. This is a cover your ass at its most disgraceful. In the reporter's phone conversation with him on Monday, he asked United Cajun Navy's Trasher about his suspicions about who it could be, and he mentioned the state's Air National Guard. They would answer to the governor of whatever state they came home to, and their own guard general, Trasher said. Trasher. I don't want to mispronounce that, but I'm not sure. Who was in charge of North Carolina's National Guard? None other than the Democrat Governor Roy Cooper, who's been part of the glacial response by FEMA and the roadblocks experienced by other relief organizations like the United Cajun Navy and individual citizens wanting to help. Interestingly enough, on that same Sunday of the incident, Governor Cooper decided to take to X to slam relentless vortex of disinformation and bad actors on X for making him a target. Let's read this tweet. Governor Roy Cooper, allegedly. As we continue our unprecedented response to Hurricane Helene, the nation is beginning to understand that impacted areas have been the target of relentless vortex of disinformation dialed up by bad actors and platforms like X. And this article goes on. The author of this article is Jennifer Oliver O'Connell. And This is going to be a pattern we're going to see. Why would a hurricane go that far inland, North Carolina? I've seen videos on Instagram and Twitter saying this area is usually where hurricane victims evacuate to, not from. The fact that so much rain came down there and destroyed the terrain and caused all that flooding and mudslides and what have you. That's not normal. In 2008, my city, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, experienced a 500-year flood. That means it's supposed to only happen once in every 500 years. The entire downtown, or like about at least half or 2/3 of downtown, was underwater because the Cedar River goes right through the city. Our city hall used to be on an island in the middle of the river, Mays Island. Now it's just a little cross. Now it's just on the side of the street, but on the side of the road. But downtown, right where the Cedar River and First Avenue intersect, that's where downtown is. That whole area was underwater, and a whole lot of residential areas were underwater. And you add that to a flood in, what was it, 2016? Then we had, in 2020, we had a derecho, which is hurricane force winds that came out of nowhere with no warning. So many apartments, homes, businesses were wrecked. So many trees were knocked down. I was very fortunate. My house was only got about a hole this big in the siding. But what did Iowa ever do to anger the weather masters? Whether it be this couldn't be an act of God. This had to be either man-made or the work of pagan deities or the demons of hell. And it could be all three. But let's read this tweet by Insurrection Barbie. Debunking the new left's talking point about now it's Republicans' fault FEMA ran out of money. Okay, so the government has money for Ukraine, Israel, countries all over the world. How many of those countries have money for us? Congress does not need to reconvene and issue more money to FEMA because they already got $20 billion. Let me repeat that one more time. $20 billion. So this money was already in FEMA's budget. Is settled by Congress earlier. It's not Republicans' fault that FEMA is run by a bunch of Marxists who use all their money for illegals. That sounds like the fault of the Democratic Party and their idiotic priorities. So let's listen to this guy who she's referencing. Okay. Kaboom. Okay. This is why the left hates Elon Musk so much. This is why they hate Twitter, because they can't. They have the corporate media is done. It's neutered. It's a dead man. It's a dead man walking. If you're still reading public polls, if you're still watching network news, cable news, you're living in the past, because there's no way Democrats ever win a fair election. Like, even JFK had to cheat. So your polls are meaningless unless it's from Rasmussen or Rich Barris. But let's talk about weather manipulation, because a real congresswoman, a legit congresswoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, has this to say on X or Twitter. Everyone keeps asking, who is they? They being the weather manipulators, the people behind who can supposedly create weird weather. Some of them are listed on the NOAA, as well as most of the ways weather can be modified, because they're required to report it in the Secretary of Commerce by the Weather Modification Act of 1972. It's been that long since they've been doing this crap. The NOAA government website has a library catalog of 1,026 entries of weather modifications, but that's not all of them. If your home or business or property is damaged or a loved one is killed by the weather modifications, shouldn't you be eligible for compensation? After all, did they ask you if you agreed to our weather being modified? Think of all the farmers. Think of all the fishermen, all the miners who have to deal with the environment, who have to deal with the weather, who are at the mercy of the weather, who are at the mercy of erosion or flash floods or mudslides. Yeah, people making a living are being canceled by the Weather Modification Act of 1972. We'll get back to Marjorie Taylor Greene in a little bit, but first let's read this from Terrible on Twitter. Gotta wait for the page to load. I thought I solved this problem, but whatever. Terrible says, Biden, we're controlling the weather? It's beyond ridiculous. It's got to stop. CIA director, yes, we can definitely control the weather. Which do you believe? Okay, let's listen. Where's the sound? Okay, that's enough. Let's listen to John Brennan. Volcanic eruptions. Remember that. That's the whole root of this. Okay, that's enough. But the left, the deep state, the universities, the media, they blame us and our use of fossil fuels, our use of gasoline, coal, oil, for the problems in the climate. That blows that whole agenda. It vaporizes it. They've been using weather modification to blame us and force their agenda. Be quiet. I'm just going to close the tab. That was John Brennan, former CIA director under Obama, who Donald Trump calls a very sick person. He was one of the he was one of the pillars of the whole Russia collusion hoax, along with Adam Schiff and uh, and the meet and Rachel Maddow on MSNBC and just cable news in general. Back to Marjorie Taylor Greene. They say this is disinformation. They also say humans cause climate change. Is this not climate change? So this is John Rich on posting on CBS. CBS spreading conspiracy theories on weather manipulation, saying we have trillion-watt lasers pointed at the sky. The scientist Michio Kaku mentions hurricanes at the end of this interview. I thought this was disinformation, right? Let's start at the beginning here. This is CBS. Al Gore. They're smiling as they talk about this. So they can't create a hurricane out of thin air, but they can jumpstart one. They can possibly direct a hurricane. They can stoke the fire, if you will. Is what Kaku is saying. Now, we've got varying reports and video and tweets on X saying, "Hey, the people in North Carolina in the disaster zone are fighting back against FEMA. There's like armed brawls. They're beating up FEMA. I've been fired up by that. I'm tempted to root it on. I have rooted it on, and I want to take that back. But we got to be aware. There are people who want to kill us. I haven't even gone into the whole lithium deposits, the mineral deposits in North Carolina that the powers that be want to get at, and that the townspeople in those areas have fought against. So this is like Maui all over again. And speaking of Maui, speaking of direct energy weapons, let's read what Ariel has to say on Twitter. Now, Ariel, he's one of those people I take with a grain of salt, but we can take what he says and maybe filter out the gold, the jewels in the gold here. Put two and two together. The Air Force does have a research site on Maui where they conduct directed energy research. Retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Charles Jones has publicly stated that millions of tons of aluminum and barium are sprayed across the U.S. almost every day, and the high presence of aluminum in the environment can make wildfires burn hotter than they used to. General Jones' statement about the flammability of aluminum dust and the increased intensity of wildfires was backed up by the California Fire Operations Chief Steve Crawford. Geoengineering consists of spraying fine particles in the name of, you guessed it, climate change, and this is something being actively researched. Remember when I told you almost 50 governors from every state opposed the National Guard joining the Space Force? This is no different than bankers opposing Basel III. I've heard of Basel III. I'm not sure what that is, but that's probably a topic for another day. This is no different than union CEOs and execs opposing blockchain. This is no different than certain Congress and military opposing DC National Guard on January 6th. Checks and balances, people. It's not that hard. So, and Ariel's referring to this, retweeting this post by the Insider paper. Broken power lines cause deadly Maui wildfires, new report shows on ABC. So, there's lots of rumor and speculation on Twitter, but I'm more inclined to, trust regular folks with where the rubber meets the road on Twitter than the ivory tower, pointy head suits, talking heads on CBS or any other network television station. So, what we have here is a clear crime against America, if not all of humanity. And we're getting, we got proof on Twitter. We've got conflicting reports on Twitter. We've got so-called disinformation checker and fact checkers from the institutions. How is this not similar to the whole controversy and yelling at a brick wall over January 6th when they fortified the election? I have to say that I'm not streaming on YouTube right now. For some reason, YouTube blocks me, but there you go. Now, we're going to talk about the importance of information and communications in the next segment. But I want to bring your attention to another referral partner and a way to support this program. I've got a affiliate link to NordVPN. Now, in recent weeks, I've come to realize the Fourth Amendment is just as important to our self-defense, citizen defense, national defense as the Second Amendment. A lot of talk has been made about weapons, the right to bear arms. But did you ever hear the old phrase, "In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king"? One of the big sources of power that the elite, that the criminal cabal, the Illuminati, the New World Order, whatever you want to call it, one of their big advantages is secrets and information. So we ought to be able to have secrets and information of our own. And we can keep our secrets online with a VPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. And what it does, it masks your online browsing. I have my NordVPN on right now. You can see I am protected according to the website. You can hide your browser history on a VPN, away from prying eyes, away from big tech, away from hackers, away from criminals who want to peek into your device. You can even transfer files securely from one device to another. You can have multiple devices using your NordVPN account. So if you want to move files from your family members or maybe members of your, dare I say, militia, you can do that. So click on NordVPN. They always have a good deal going on. They've got 74% off NordVPN for extra 3 months. Click on the link. You'll be doing yourself a favor, and you'll be supporting this channel. Let's continue here. Another tweet. This one by Wall Street Silver. Wall Street Silver is one of my favorite X accounts. I don't subscribe to a lot of accounts. I only subscribe to like Brian Cates. Maybe I didn't. I canceled it. But the Wall Street Silver is a gold mine. I just made it funny. Wall Street Silver says FEMA is now using Elon's Starlink for emergency communications in the flood-hit disaster areas. The FCC has $42 billion to connect rural Americans to the internet. Joe Biden canceled Starlink from being able to participate in the funding. So a lot of people on Twitter and on Rumble are saying that Starlink is going to play a huge role in the upcoming communication blackout that Q predicted. Information is our ally. Information is, and if we can't have information, then we need to listen to God's voice in our guts and walk by faith and not by sight. But information and intelligence is, really we're in an information war. This is either 5th or 6th generation warfare. We can't battle the people who are oppressing us without intelligence. So, and they're going to try to shut down the internet any way they can. And if Donald Trump beats the fortification, beats the cheating in November, they want to shut down. If they can't censor us, if they can't control the narrative on the networks, if they can't control the narrative on social media, they're going to shut down the internet. So we need Starlink. I don't know if Elon's going to offer it for free. I don't know if there's going to be a discount because Starlink costs like $400 per home. So that's out of reach for a lot of people, but we got to wait and see. Now, I just got a whole lot of articles here just touching on all of the ways that communications are failing here. So let's kind of skim through them here. Newsweek, U.S. detects China interference in the 2024 election. Yeah, they interfered in 2020. I mean, Mike Lindell's got the proof. That's why the deep state's going after him so hard. From the Daily Mail, Yahoo Mail outage, users unable to check emails. I'm reading this from the URL. Oh, don't do this to me. Usually I like the Brave browser because it blocks ads, but it gets kind of squirrely if you have too many tabs open. Casio, this is from the Record website. Casio says recent cyber attack caused system failure. A cyber attack systems on Japanese tech manufacturer Casio caused a system failure that resulted in some devices being unavailable to customers. Let's see what is on Cyberscoop. Major U.S. water company hit by cyber attack. That's from October 7th. That was in New Jersey. From Daily Mail again, Verizon goes down for thousands across the U.S. with users unable to make calls or use the internet. Yeah, that was I saw that on Facebook. I don't have Verizon, but my carrier may not be much any more ethical. I'm on Google Fi. I probably need to get on T-Mobile because they're partnering with Starlink. Also from the Daily Mail, Microsoft suffers outage, leaving users across U.S. unable to access Outlook, Teams, and 365 services. So I use Windows. That's about all I want to use from Microsoft because Bill Gates is a sick puppy. Here's something on X. Just waiting for the wheel to turn. Just in, the Internet Archive was hacked. The pop-up claims there was a catastrophic security breach, and now the site is down with a temporary offline notice, according to The Verge. So, the Wayback Machine, aka the Internet Archive, where you can look at up all sorts of pages on the internet that have either been deleted or blocked by a paywall, that's down. Wasn't their founder like the uncle of Taylor Lorenz, that very self-absorbed Washington Post reporter who doxed a lot of people on YouTube? That could have been an inside job. From Reclaim the Net. Reclaim the Net is on the ball when it comes to censorship. Brazil lifts ban on X after the platform agrees to censor accounts. So yeah, Twitter has been banned from Brazil because the Chief Justice of their Supreme Court is a monster. He's the man behind the curtain as far as like the corrupt government in Brazil. And he just absolutely broke the law he broke his country's laws by stonewalling X. I'm going through these just to give you a taste of all of the give you a sense of all the communication disruption that's going on here. It's not just Arizona. Did you hear about this? College students in Georgia received text messages from Kamala Harris campaign and potentially illegal breach of personal data. Nevada, Michigan, New Mexico, New Hampshire, and North Carolina too. So did you hear that students from all the state universities in Arizona got text messages from the Kamala Harris campaign? And it's not just Arizona, it's all the states in this headline. So it probably varies from state to state, but this sort of access to personal information from the students has got to be illegal to varying degrees in whatever state. But I know it's blatantly illegal in Arizona. How did her campaign get access to this? Probably an inside job. Probably collusion with the state government and the schools. Get your kids out of public school, homeschool. Unless you're going to college for engineering, law, or medicine, you really don't need to be there. There's so much information you can get for free on YouTube. I'm telling you. Now, this is something very dire. We've talked about all the ways that there's going to be communication blackout. Clandestine says this: if Trump wins, it appears the deep state have plans to activate terror cells that are already inside our nation. The Dems let in millions of people into our country, unchecked, and some number of them are literally terrorists. I fear what they have planned is horrific. This is from NBC News. Afghan national living in the U.S. charged with plotting an election day terrorist attack. Nasser Ahmad Tawadi, a resident of Oklahoma City, was charged with conspiring to carry out a terrorist attack on behalf of ISIS, according to federal prosecutors. So, yeah. Kamala is tanking so hard. The internal polls are dire for her. Rasmussen is probably dire for the Democrats. And all the other polls are garbage. But there's no way a Democrat has ever won a fair election in this country's history. Definitely not this year. It's going to be so big for Trump that they probably can't hide it. So they're probably going to disrupt the post-election transition. They might try to start World War III, nuclear war. They might try terror attacks in this country. They might try a communication blackout, cyber attacks. They might try all three. That's why I want you to go to my website, The Safe Citizen, and arm yourself. I mean, guns are expensive. A good handgun costs between $500 and $800. Like my Glock costs like $620 some. But there's pepper spray and there's knives. But couple more things here. Tim Walz accused of setting the stage for accusation that Trump stole the election. Tim Walz has made a statement that America's Electoral College needs to go. That process, of course, is what the nation's founders established to make sure that a handful of major population centers would not forever control the results of each election. It allows even low population states to have an influence on the results, even if those large concentration of voters in cities and states still have more influence. Tim Pool did a great explanation this years ago. The Electoral College is meant to protect people in rural areas or sparsely populated areas from the tyranny of large, urban centers, because rural areas are where farming is done, it's where mining is done, it's where forestry is done, it's where a lot of manufacturing is done in small towns, in lots of rural areas or suburbs. And when you consider that it's easier to cheat in large urban areas that are more densely populated, that makes a small town or a rural area's vote that much more valid. So that's why we have the Electoral College. I mean, Thomas Jefferson, way back when, predicted that if Americans ever gathered into large cities like the Europeans, we would be as corrupt as the Europeans. I know he said it somewhere. I haven't found the quote recently, but I know I read it. Walz's statement makes it clear that he wants to destroy forever any influence from voters in many Republican states: Oklahoma, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, and more. And his comment also is being seen as an attempt to set the groundwork for claiming that President Trump stole the 2024 election, should the candidate who is now leading the race in many polls actually be declared the victor. Caroline Levitt says, "Is Tampon Tim laying the groundwork to claim President Trump's victory is illegitimate?" Tim Walz calls for eliminating the Electoral College during a fundraiser at Gavin Newsom's private residence in Sacramento. I think all of us know the Electoral College needs to go. Per a Pool report, we need a national popular vote, but that's not the world we live in. The Washington Examiner reported Walz was at yet another fundraiser when he said, "I think all of us know the Electoral..." Okay. At still another fundraiser, he continued his agenda with, "This country is deeply divided, and because of that, this election is going to be very, very close." Okay. Your lips are moving, Tim. Margin of error. And we know, because of our system of the Electoral College, that puts a few states in real focus. Okay, the only reason Democrats have ever been able to steal elections is because they ran against really dipshit Republicans who only posed as conservatives. It was like the Globetrotters versus the Generals. It was all sham. They were in on it. Democrats are nothing without Republicans, rhinos, to sabotage the whole race. I mean, rhinos probably did get more votes, but it was close enough that they could fudge the numbers at the ballot box. You get the point. Now, one more post on X, and then I'll get to my finishing thought. We're coming back to the whole Hurricane Helene drama. This is from Rasmussen. Local sheriffs have threatened to arrest FEMA workers if they hinder rescue aid and aid work. #winning. So they're retweeting Spencer Smith. Spencer Smith says, "Just got off the phone with a pastor in the midst of the flooding in Tennessee and North Carolina. He's in one of the most devastated locations. He verified a few things about the situation. Almost all help is being done by private citizens, mainly churches. Private helicopters are flying in the vast majority of the supplies. Local sheriffs are telling people to feel free to defend their property from looters by whatever means they have." A little gun emoji. "Without rule of law is happening in some areas, which means looting, robbing, and etc. FEMA's involvement has seriously complicated the rescue efforts." Here's the money shot. Local sheriffs have threatened to arrest FEMA workers if they hinder rescue and aid work. The response to this tragedy has been massive and overwhelming, all from private individuals and local churches. Pray for these people. And that brings me to my final thought here. We're still getting news about Hurricane Milton in Florida. Thankfully, I think it's not as bad as we were expecting. Now, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Can't conservatives, can't white hats control the weather too? Well, maybe we can. I've been watching Julie Green Ministries on Rumble this year. She's got me fired up. She's got like so many cool lessons from the Bible, from Scripture, of God's people changing the course of history through prayer. You look at King David, you look at Joshua, you look at the judges, you look at the prophets, you look at the apostles. God acts through his people. And when people are in tune with the Holy Spirit and invoking the name of Jesus Christ, they accomplish amazing things. And it's not just in ancient times, in biblical times. There's stories from more recent eras. There's a great story. There's actually several great stories of Iraq veterans praying Psalm 91 in either battle or on their patrols, and it saved their lives. You can look up these testimonies on YouTube. Just look up Iraq veteran Psalm 91. Psalm 91, I pray that psalm every day before I go out and drive Uber, or if I even leave the house. I don't know if I'm in a territory where the terrorists are going to attack, but I pray it, and I tell my Uber passengers to pray it too. I sometimes you have close calls in traffic, and I tell them, hey, good thing I prayed Psalm 91. And a lot of people are actually very receptive to that message. Even people who've been burned by the church or their particular church, that's the thing. Just as we have local law enforcement, and it's important to have local law enforcement because it's decentralized, we have a lot of different denominations and churches. There are some good churches, there are some bad churches. A good church is one that follows the Holy Spirit and follows Scripture and follows, the meaning of God's grace and the power that Jesus Christ gave us by defeating death on the cross and really putting down Satan and his minions. We have the power to call down Satan and cancel his power. That is mentioned multiple times in the Gospel and in the New Testament. And it's mentioned multiple times in the Old Testament too. It's one continuous work. Did our prayers cancel the power of Hurricane Milton? Did ringing bells and the special frequency of church bells erode Milton's power? It could have. We're still getting news about Milton. In the coming days or weeks, we'll find out more. Are we canceling the enemy's power when it comes to child trafficking, to economic tyranny, debt, taxation, medical tyranny? Can we heal from the effects of the COVID jab? Or even can transgender patients get their organs back? Okay, you think having 75 genders is crazy? You think having weather modification is crazy? We're all bets are off now. Can people get their organs and their DNA restored back to where it was before medical tyranny happened? Can people get the years of their life back? You might say, why is North Carolina having so much trouble? Why is there such a horrible death toll in North Carolina? Well, Hurricane Helene caught us by surprise. No one expected it to go that far inland, so maybe we didn't pray as hard in that instance. We prayed hard against Hurricane Milton, and that helped out. Think about that. God has given us power over the serpents, over the demons of hell, over all manner of things. We just have to take it and use it. You might think, oh, we don't deserve to be successful. We don't deserve to, have good fortune. No, we don't. We're broken. And that's the whole reason Jesus went up on the cross, to heal us. Salvation really isn't about doing the right thing. It's really about obeying God and letting him fix what's wrong with you so that you can do what's right. You got to show that you're willing to do it and obey his commands. You're going to screw up. I screwed up. David and the prophets screwed up. No one except Jesus was perfect, but he who perseveres is going to be saved. So I'll let you go there. I'll end it there. The White Hats are winning. Heaven is winning. The kingdom of God is winning. And if you don't believe in God after he saved President Trump on July 13th, then I think only nuclear war can wake you up. But I will let you go. I will end it there. I'm Nate Houseman, letting you go, and I want to let you know more than ever, it's okay to stand up for yourself. Over and out.